Hey, Ratvank here. Today I wanted to do a short video on runes and what they do and just the basics. Yeah, so you're going to have four elements for runes: wind, thunder, water, and fire. Now, all of these runes will have certain statted runes in common, but the ones you really want to go for, and they're all separated by the element. So wind is going to be your boss damage. Thunder is going to be your PvP, like player damage. Water is crit, and fire is attack. Now, the way these work with your gear is once you start upgrading them, you'll start getting locked sockets. Those sockets can be opened with the socket tools, and then you can start placing runes in there. I believe it starts at epic with one socket, uni is 2, and then legendary is 3. Now with the 1 and 2 slots, you'll get the individual rune stats, but when it comes to legendary, that's when it starts getting interesting. That's when you start getting extra effects, rune set effects. And for the sake of the video, I put 4 sets together so you can kind of see what they do in comparison. So up here in my buff section, we got wind, this little tornado. It does a movement debuff and some damage. Thunder, you're going to get a damage. It doesn't look like a damage over time. Water does a freezing, like a stun, and then fire is going to give you damage over time, burn effect. And as you can see here in my necklace, I have three together, and it's listed as an epic rune set effect. Now, the higher the rarity of the rune effect, the higher that these base stats are going to raise, which makes it really important to have all the same elements within a set. I really don't suggest putting different elements together. I mean, that's one way to save rune pieces, which are these small things over here, as it gets pretty expensive upgrading. But generally you want all of the same elements, and that's honestly the way that the runes are intended to go. All of the same elements and all of the same stats. The reason, and I mean the big reason for that is the rune numbers themselves are so small, they're not really going to give you a benefit if you just have a few sets. They're really intended to be stacked on top of each other. So just for an example, like I have this glut set here. I mean, if you just do the math, it's 9 pieces plus times three possible runes you could have per piece. So that's obviously going to add up. Now, as far as upgrading, when you start upgrading it, it will give you. Unfortunately, I don't have a rune to show you here, but I guess we could just. So when you upgrade, it gives you a success rate, and then it gives you a destroyed rate. Now, you have 2 materials that can help mitigate this. One being nymphs barriers, and the second being nymphs favors. Now, barriers are super important when it comes to upgrading these, because that's basically going to protect your runes from failing. Nymphs favors are really important too. They're going to prevent the runes from falling back any levels. So yeah, in comparison to like solar upgrading and and gear upgrading. The big difference is you run the chance of it being destroyed, and there's no blessing materials in this system, so you can't really jump any levels. It's really a super end game system. It's pretty hardcore. But just then, I mean, just looking at this rune, the success rate is 36%, and the destroyed rate is fairly low. But when you consider the cost of materials it takes to upgrade this, like you're not going to even, I mean, runes are running from 300k to like millions, and then the materials themselves are super expensive, so you got to be really careful. So in this instance I would definitely use a barrier. um, Probably not a favor because it's starting at 20, but I mean, you pretty much want to use barriers from +3 normal to 10 and then onwards. There's really no other situation where you're not going to use barriers, to be honest. So the big thing that you want to consider is that it takes a lot of rune pieces. At first, it doesn't seem like it's much, but from rare to epic, it can take anywhere from 12-15k to like 20k just to upgrade one. So there are a few ways to get these rune pieces, but really it's meant to be a really long grind, like grinding fields. Fields is the primary source of these pieces. So I'd highly recommend farming gem 1, gem 2 with your speed boosts on clan buffs. I also know some people who will use this hunting up buff, which increases the yield by 20%, which is pretty significant. It does cost 200 rubies. It's not too expensive, but it's kind of pricey. Another way to get the rune pieces is you could disassemble runes. You can divide them, which is, you don't get a whole lot from doing that. You can't just like scour over IE and try to buy trash runes, but it's a slow grind doing it that way. And then lastly, the third way to get these rune pieces is, and I think a lot of people forget, is you can complete the quests from your avatars and get rune pieces. And that's a good way. So I mean, between the three, I mean, you can save up like a good decent amount. Now when it comes to like the rarities, unis are extremely expensive. I've sort of stopped at a epic, but I mean, I don't really think the unis are worth it unless you're really pushing for like leaderboard stuff. But yeah. Anyways, I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah. So hopefully this helped. Thank you. Bye.